Welcome to the Ghost Show online, my fiends, booze, and ghouls. Your hosts, Seika Groves, Rachel Benter, and Ian Russell will discuss all things paranormal. Prepare to be afraid.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Ghost Show. It's been a long time since we've been here. We've all been super busy with other projects, and just time gets away from you. So we are back. It is 2024. Holy, where did the time go? I am Seika, and I am one of the hosts here at the Ghost Show.
Hi, I'm Rachel. I'm a psychic medium and another host on the Ghost Show.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ian, and I am a paranormal researcher and a paranormal investigator.
And I guess I should say what I do. I'm an afterlife switchboard operator. That's just a fancy name for being a medium.
I like that.
So we've been away for ages, and we wanted to kick off the show with something a little bit different. Now, I have been on some adventures in the United States. We ended up purchasing a property in South Louisiana, and I've been so privileged to be able to meet a ton of really new, interesting paranormal folks down there. It's really pretty shocking how prevalent it is. But let's face it, New Orleans, anywhere you go in Louisiana, there's so much history. And so there's all of these really old homes, a lot of antebellum homes, a lot of homes that are even older than that. Some go back to, the 1700s even. And then we have more modern homes. But there's a real interesting mix of all kinds of paranormal stuff down there. And I attended a interesting Paracon recently. It was called Cajun Country Paracon in New Iberia. And that was just back in March, and I met all kinds of amazing people. And so at that event, I met a couple of gents, Charles and Wesley, and they had this really interesting, I want to say, Airbnb. Now, you can rent on Airbnb. You can go there and you can stay. It's called the Steamboat Inn, and it's in a little place called Centerville. And for people who don't really know Louisiana at all, or South Louisiana, Centerville is between Morgan City and Franklin. And that is sort of halfway to Lafayette. So if you were to say Houma to Lafayette, Franklin's kind of in the middle, but Centerville is obviously the middle, or what they consider the middle. We were really lucky to be able to stay at this really cool old antebellum home, but it was always an inn. It became a private residence for a very short period in its life, but it was built to be an inn. And today it remains an inn. It's just wild. I
bet it is. These places in the South have some real history, don't they?
They do. And this one is no different. It was just a lot of fun to stay. We didn't go there with the absolute intention to do any kind of paranormal investigation, but as you know, Rachel, it doesn't matter where we go.
I certainly know that. That's right.
Investigation. It just happens. So
it does.
It really was a fun thing. Now, I've got some great videos. When we got there the first day, we didn't really know what to expect. I mean, we saw a beautiful brochure when we were at the Paracon, and it showed the house, and it talked about all the lovely rooms, but we didn't really have a feel for it from the brochure. And when we got there, we were so, so intrigued. I mean, it is a beautiful old home. I believe there's 5 bedrooms in there. And they've got it appointed in a way that makes you feel like you're walking into an old antebellum home with people that have money. It's really worth staying there, and it's so reasonably priced. It's crazy. It's the price for an overnight stay is very reasonable. And as I said, we were there for 3 days. So we had the place to ourselves the second and third night. The first night, there was a couple there, and they were staying on the main floor in the main suite, and we were upstairs in room 2. And this was really interesting because, well, let's face it, I wasn't
So was that on the first floor or which floor was your room?
There's only 1 bedroom on the main floor, and then the rest of the bedrooms on the second floor. And then there is attic space. And I believe the plans are to turn the attic space into a large, sort of like a bridal suite. It's huge.
Ooh.
Really gorgeous when they get there, but they've done a lot of work to this place to really, spruce it up and make it beautiful. Wes has done all of the interior design. He's very talented, and he really should be doing this. He's a hairstylist, but he's an amazing interior designer. And Charles is lovely. Charles kind of, mans the overall, maintenance and all of the repair work. And he's sort of the handy guy. But together, they're both really, really a really dynamic duo. And they've really brought this place up to, almost, it's very posh inside. Very posh.
It sounds very posh.
Yeah, it's
very
really
fancy.
Lovely, and it's comfortable. And Centerville there's really not a lot around Centerville in terms of, if you want to go out and do something exciting, there's no nightlife in Centerville. I take that back. There is in a weird sort of way. But at the same time, it's actually just a really lovely place to stay. The birds are chirping. There's beautiful. The Bayou Teche is just down at the end of the street. And you can take a boat ride. We went out on a boat ride. We took a boat ride into 6 Mile Lake, and we did a lot of fun things. But let's talk about why I'm
Okay.
I have a question.
Well, you've already sold me on it.
Obviously, there is a paranormal history connected to this building, just the fact that we're even talking about it. My question is do the owners acknowledge that there is some kind of a paranormal history to it, or are they totally skeptical about it and do not discuss anything like that?
Oh no, they're very up for the paranormal side of it. They've actually had paranormal groups come in, do overnights, and and they talk about it. I mean, if you're, it's not, I don't think they blurt it out to everybody that comes in, but certainly if they know that you're open to it, they will give you a little background on the property and the things that other people have picked up and experienced. So they are open to that, and they're always open to hearing more and more from people who stay.
Because I know that there are a lot of locations down there in Louisiana where these inns and beds and breakfast and like, say, for example, like Myrtle's Plantation.
Right.
They advertise, yes, this is a haunted location, and I'm gathering that these owners do not do that.
Well, I wouldn't say they don't.
Yeah.
They were at the Paracon, actually, there advertising the inn. So I do believe that, when it comes down to it, they do promote it to a degree. It's not something that you find listed on the Airbnb listing, but it's certainly prevalent in, when you talk with them or when you come into the home, and they will give you the rundown. Now, when we got there, I didn't want to know anything. I just wanted to know, where is my room? Where am I staying? and I didn't want to hear all
Like
the
the Sherman Inn.
Yes, I didn't want to hear anything ahead of time. So I kind of like la 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 because
Right.
friends down there were like, oh, and I'm like, shh, no, I don't
Yeah,
want
yeah,
to.
yeah.
They
I'm
wanted
like that too when I go into when we do investigations, I'm the same way. I don't want to hear the myths, the legends, the whatevers,
right.
because I'm not going to have anything sort of make me bias or, I want it to be a complete clean slate.
Yes, and that's it. And I mean, Ian, I know with you because you're not sensitive in the way that we are, that you hear about those things. It doesn't really affect you either way with your equipment. I mean, it may
Right.
actually give you something more to pinpoint or work towards or target when you are investigating. But I know in the case of Rachel and I, we like to not know so that what we do receive is more, I suspect, to say genuine
Exactly.
in what we're
Authentic. Or yeah.
yeah. So when we stayed there the first night, we I mean, obviously we knew there was some paranormal activity in the building. I'm not going to say we didn't know. We had talked to people. I just didn't want to know the full story. I didn't want to know everything. And I did a full walkthrough video. It's quite long. It's almost 5 minutes, but it walks through the entire building itself. So you really get to see a nice layout. And there's some interesting little tidbits in that walkthrough because I wasn't doing it as a paranormal walkthrough. I was just doing it with my phone and walking through. And there was some interesting things that happened. on the old Spanish Trail, as it's called, and it was a throughway that carriages, coaches, and also the steamboat used to come right up behind and dock behind them, which is why it's called the Steamboat Inn today. Originally, I believe it was known as, it's had a few names. It was the Kennedy House or the Kennedy Inn and a few other names prior to that. But today they refer to it as the Steamboat Inn because the steamboat used to come right up behind. And that steamboat ran on Bayou Teche. So Bayou Teche goes all the way up from Lafayette, all the way down to the Atchafalaya River. And from there, so you could travel quite a distance on those old steamers. So this inn had a lot of people coming to stay, people of varying degrees of wealth and not wealth. A lot of people who would have worked in the cotton fields, in the indigo fields, and, you know, they were moving around between different towns and things. So this inn had a sort of cheaper side and a slightly more expensive side. Now, what I was told is the side where room 2 was where the manager and his family resided, which is why we have this interesting little semicircular hallway. They could close a door off there and they had that whole side of the house to themselves, or the whole side of the building. And there was the room number 2 would have been the main bedroom. And then there were 2 other bedrooms which have been converted into bathrooms now. So those 2 other additional bedrooms up there are now bathrooms to service the suites. But interestingly enough, this room 2, it's a large room, and it would have originally had a fireplace. It has a fireplace in it today, but as they were saying, the fireplaces in the home now are rebuilt. So they're more modern looking. They've got that big brickwork with a mantle, and that would not have been the normal type of fireplace in that home, right? It would have been a much smaller, close to the wall.
Was there anything that stood out to you personally about as you were walking around and going to your room? Did anything sort of catch your attention or sort of make you sort of have, you know, more heightened senses?
Yeah, well, you know, it's a good question too, right? Because yes, when we were walking through the house at the time, I believe Charles was telling us that one of our other friends had come in and he sensed something at the top of the stairs. And it was quite true. When I got to the top of the stairs, there was this very oppressive feel to the space, but not in like a negative bad way. There was just this strange,
just like a heavy energy, a heavy air.
Yeah, it sort of felt heavy.
Dark heaviness, yeah.
But not something that I would say is, you know, sinister or bad. It was just it's almost like stagnant energy, if you know what I'm talking about, Rachel. You know, that energy that just kind of sits and it doesn't seem to move around. It just sort of sits in one spot. But that was sort of the feeling when we got up the stairs. But when I came into room 2, it was a beautiful room. It's got windows, lots of windows in there, and beautiful furniture. It's got this gorgeous 4-post bed. It's not a canopy, but it's, you know, a very traditional 4-post bed, spindle style that, you know, it gets narrow towards the top. Very lovely, big bed, nice big queen size bed in there. And they're lovely, lovely rooms. You know, they have all of the nice little sort of feel to make you feel like it's quite an elegant stay. And so I didn't think too much about it. Again, we, you know, put our stuff in the room, we left, we went out again. What was really interesting was when we got back that night, because like I said, the first night we were sharing the building. There was another couple downstairs staying. We talked with them briefly, and then we went off and did our things, and we came back. And it was pretty early that night, pretty early. I think if we were already in bed, it was like maybe 10 o'clock. And I was doing some reading, and Ed was, you know, on his phone looking at some stuff. And we just decided, okay, we're going to go to bed. We were getting up really early the next morning, actually, to go out onto the Teche and that with the boat. And So we thought, oh, we'll go to bed early. So we went to bed. I think I fell asleep. It was like 10:30. It's very quiet there. And you could hear the birds, they have some night birds and that. So you could hear a few birds outside. And then at one point, I could hear this strange little sound, right? And so I guess I said to him, I go, do you hear that? And he's like, it sounds like bats. And I'm like, it does sound like bats, doesn't it? So there's bats in the chimney, right?
Are you saying there's vampires in Louisiana? Is that what you're implying here? See, because there's.
Well, they
Of
are.
course there are.
Oh, this was a ghost show. It's not the vampire show. That's next week.
Yeah, that's next week.
There's a
But
great book out written by an author who I believe he's deceased now, George R. R. Martin.
oh yes,
Yes,
He wrote a novel
I
called-
know him.
He wrote a novel called Fever Dream, and
Oh.
that's exactly what the book is. It's about a bunch of vampires that are on this old, Mississippi River paddle steamer going down the
Wow.
river. It's a great book. It's awesome.
Okay.
I don't know
Check
if
that out.
if it's still in publication anymore, but
Oh,
if
I'm
you can
sure
get a
that-
copy, it's a great book.
I totally will. I will. That's fantastic. I didn't know that. You learned something new.
Though, right? So here's these little bats, right? Where the bats are flying around outside of the house, and we can hear them. And it ends up they're up in the chimney. They're going to be dealt with in a nice way.
How big are these bats? Are they just
Oh, they were-
normal sized bats?
Like little browns, like little brown bats. Right? We didn't
Oh,
see them. We didn't see them at all. You could just kind of hear them, right? You can hear bats, right? They make a very sort of soft little sound. And we thought they were outside the window, and we discovered they were probably up in the upper part of the chimney. They weren't in the attic because I went up into the attic and there was nothing up in the attic. It was perfect. So I think they'd just gotten in and had found themselves a nice little roost inside the chimney because of the bricks being nice and rough they can grip on. So they were just getting in there. But anyway, so this was the first thing. So we wake up, I hear this sound. I'm like, okay, this is little bats. I can deal with that. So we fall back asleep again. And I remember to the exact minute, it was 12:39. I woke up, boom. And I looked at my phone, which was beside me, and it says 12:39. And it was crazy. It was so noisy. And I'm waking up at him like, hey, wake up. Can you hear this? And he's like, what? Because nothing says like wake me up in the middle of the night so I can ask if he can hear things. So anyways, what I could hear, which I wasn't sure, was I could hear in the distance the sound of field guns, like boom, boom, and then like a Gatling gun sound, that, and it was just like the weirdest sound. And I thought maybe there was a train or there was something in the distance. So when I woke him up, I'm like, can you hear this? Can you hear what I'm hearing? And he's like, I don't hear anything. And I'm like, are you sure?
yeah.
It's like cans
Yeah.
going off. And
Was it similar to what you heard in Gettysburg when you were in Gettysburg?
yeah, very much so. But
Yeah, because maybe it was part of the Civil War.
That's what
was
I'm thinking is that you were picking up on some kind of residual energy from the Civil War.
right. And
That's right.
apparently there was a battle just down the way, not very far away, like a couple of miles down the road.
Wow,
On
see?
top of that now, so we have this going on. This, I can hear it, and it's not going away. It's not stopping. It wasn't like a one-off. You could just keep hearing. It was as if you were in the inn at the time, and the battle was going on several miles away down the road, and you would hear.
Crazy.
And I could hear that. And then there was a woman's voice. I kept hearing this woman's voice, and she kept saying, Cassandra, 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 where are you? Over for 2 hours. And she was very adamant. It was a very, very strong voice, very strong personality. And it was just a constant, Cassandra, Cassandra. And at times it was very loud. She was like, where are you? She was yelling through the entire house. And then
Wild.
also, there's all these voices I can hear. So say like 10, 15 people talking. And you know when you hear that, but you can't really hear what they're saying. It's just a murmur. It's like a lot of
Yeah.
talking, nothing's very clear. And I could hear that. And I wasn't sure if it was coming from, it sounded like it was coming from downstairs in the main entrance or outside on the front porch. But this literally went on for 2 hours. It did not stop. I could not sleep. It was loud. It was constant. Ed had fallen back to sleep. I'm like, wake up. It's driving me crazy. So about 2:30 or so, I finally literally said very loudly, stop it. Enough. Everything stopped. And it was quiet. All we could hear was the little bats and coming and going out of the chimney. And I fell asleep again. I've never experienced that. Like I've had a lot of different things happen, but this was consistent. Oh, what happened? I got all blurry. Look at that. Whoa, that was weird.
Yeah.
But I've never really had it for such a prolonged period of time. You know, sometimes you'll pick it up, you'll hear it, and it'll last for a moment or two. But this was 2 hours. And until I actually said, stop, I can't sleep, it just kept going and going. And it was like it was on repeat, like a consistent loop over and over and over. And I'm like, why am I the only one hearing this?
Yeah.
You know, it was
like, that's often the case though, isn't it? You know?
But I don't know. Like, have you ever experienced anything, Rachel, that's gone on for like 2 hours or, you know, even an hour? Like,
no, not typically 2 hours. That's a very long time for me. That would drive me insane, I think.
It was driving me insane at that point.
I question if I had, you know, schizophrenia at that point, you know.
Well,
you know, because I'm like, what is that? It's a very long time to be hearing things, you know. That's a little on the concerning side, if you ask me.
Well, that strikes me as residual energy.
Well, that's what I thought too.
Yes.
Because, you know, with like a spirit interaction, it's more in the moment, where this was just on a loop.
Yes, exactly. It's not going to repeat.
Yeah.
That's what residual is. It just
Yes.
It loops over and over again.
Mm-hmm. And that was kind of my reckoning on this too, because I couldn't get any response when I was, you know, trying to find out who this person was that kept going, Cassandra, Cassandra, because of what I was hearing between the, you know, the distant sounds of a war happening, you know, these guns going off. The people talking downstairs, it was just a quiet murmur. So it wasn't really, but this woman was loud, very loud, and very sort of, you know, just demanding. And it's funny because the next day, one of the owners had popped by and he, you know, Charles, and he had asked, and I said, well, the room 2 is really, really noisy. I hope that, you know, when we move downstairs to the main room today, that it's quiet. Now, funny enough, when we got downstairs into the main room, it was pretty quiet. Although, oddly enough, I heard footsteps upstairs. So when we went to bed the next night, I was asleep again, got woken up, and I'm not sure what time it was at that point. But I thought that Ed had gotten up to go to the bathroom, and I could hear footsteps. And I was listening, and then I realized he's still asleep beside me, but I could hear them walking across the floor upstairs in room 2.
Oh,
and then down the staff staircase.
Oh, that reminds me of the Victorian Hotel in England. It was the same kind of thing where you know, you even hear the weight of the foot on it's not just like, you know, a noise of a footstep. It's like you hear the the weight. Does that make sense, Ian?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I figured that the what I was hearing definitely sounded like a woman, I'm going to say, because she didn't have a heavy footstep. right? It was more of a
Okay.
light footstep, and the shoe did not sound like it had a heel, if that makes sense.
Oh, okay.
So it,
Do you
you know,
think it might have been a man's footstep or a woman's
oh, I
footstep?
think it was definitely a woman. It was very light, and
Ah,
coming down the stairs, it was sort of a light sound going down the staircase. It didn't have like a,
or maybe a child or an adult.
I think it was definitely an adult. I don't believe it was a child. It sounded, now I say that, but then later on, I was talking to a couple of people who had done an investigation in there. And
Oh, okay.
I had posted that, I had gotten all of these things. And Louisiana Spirits, the gal Marcy there, she said, "Oh, we picked up on the gunfire, the sound of field guns.
Uh-huh.
Their EVPs, they'd actually picked that up." And I was like,
Wow.
yeah, so it was really neat. And then I had a couple of other people telling me, "Oh, there's a lady up there." I refer to her, actually, the lady that cleans the inn. She said she refers to her as Miss Elizabeth, and I'm wondering if that.
Oh.
And she's seen her, like she's physically seen her,
Oh, wow.
standing in the hallway between room
Mhm.
2 and what would have been the other two
That-
bedrooms. There's a window there, and she saw her standing in the hallway there. So, hey, kind of an
That's
interesting.
creepy. That gives me the heebie-jeebies. But that's part of what we do, isn't it?
I don't get weirded out by this stuff. I'm really more
I
fascinated.
get flashbacks to Victorian
No, I'm the
hotels and
same way. I don't get weirded out.
Me
Yeah,
neither.
this is what I do. It's why
yeah,
I'm here.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I do find it fascinating, but like I said, I do have some really neat little clips, because then the next day when we were there on our own, I did a walkthrough, and it wasn't intended as a paranormal walkthrough. It was just intended as to capture the essence of the building and all of the beautiful furniture and all of the work that they had put
Can
into
I
it.
ask?
And yeah,
See, can I just ask? I don't mean to interrupt.
no, go ahead.
What was the temperatures like there? So, what, in the middle of the night, was it cold or warm? Like, did you feel a decrease in the temperatures as you were hearing the voices?
Not really, no. I didn't. I mean,
Oh,
I
okay.
was bed at the time, and I had the ceiling fan was on, because in Louisiana, you just need to have
Right,
fan all
exactly.
the time. It's
Mhm.
already 75 or 80 degrees even in March, and
I'd have
you
been
know.
curious to know what the EMF readings might have been like
I did
in that
when
room.
we do a walk
Yeah,
through
well, I as a paranormal investigator, I would say that if the voices you heard were intelligent, there possibly could have been a temperature decrease. But if they're residual, no, I would say that the temperature would remain constant to what it was.
I'm sort of that, and I do believe that what I was hearing that first night in room 2 was indeed a residual, because it was just caught in a loop, like literally caught in a loop, and it was exactly the same thing over and over and over. Like it went in a loop where first I would hear the field guns, boom, 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 boom. And then the murmuring, the voices, murmur, murmur. And then all of a sudden, this woman's voice would kick in with the Cassandra bit. And after she did her Cassandra, Cassandra, and then she was like, "Cassandra, where are you?" It all kind of just looped over again. And it just kept doing this over and over and over. So it was a bit like being stuck in some sort of weird, residual vortex.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
but oddly enough, when I did finally say, "Stop, I need to sleep," it did stop. So it's I never really know how to address that, because is it just that at that moment I decided that I'm just going to shut down and I'm not going to hear it anymore, or did something actually step in and stop it? I don't know. I mean, I can't.
That's
I
a good
can't.
question.
Yeah, I can't really answer. What do you think, Ian? Like with residual energy, because residual energy to me is not, like you said, it's not interactive. You can't have a direct connection.
No, it isn't.
Feel it, you can hear
No,
it.
residual energy is how do I put this? It's energy that has been absorbed into the surroundings
That's right.
over the years. Think of say a servant's wooden staircase in an old building like that,
Right.
where for years and years you got the servants going up and down, the sounds of the footsteps,
Hmm.
Right.
energy that those servants physically put into going up and down the stairs, that gets absorbed into
So the fabric
the
of the building.
staircase itself,
Yeah.
the environment. And it's like you leave a trace behind. And that's what you're hearing when it comes to residual. It's the sound of footsteps going up and down the staircase, even though physically there may not be spirits going up and down the staircase. It's what they call the stone tape theory, if you're familiar with that.
And Casa Loma is a really good example of that. There's a staircase in the study of Casa Loma. Have you
Yes,
And that's
yes,
the spot
yes.
where residual energy is constantly repeating itself in there on that servant staircase. But this one too, I think because it was an inn, that it was staff that were coming up and down that staircase all the time, and likely because that was apparently the family side of the home, that whoever Cassandra was the poor person who had to deal with the woman of the household. And perhaps she was allocated to them only, and she wasn't working the other rooms in the inn, because they would have had multiple staff, obviously, to maintain. And this was the kind of inn where they did serve a dinner. So there was like a communal supper. So they made food. There was an outdoor kitchen. The kitchen was quite small. It's now attached to the home with a breezeway, which is the dining area, not the formal dining area, but just sort of the casual kitchen itself now. But behind it, they have a laundry room but that was the original kitchen, and that was separated from the building. So it was probably between both buildings. So can you just imagine, like, the staff, they'd be running back and forth between, and I mean, it was an inn, so it wasn't chaos. People would come, they would have a certain time, I guess, that they would have to check in and check out by, like anything else that we have today, if they were long term, or maybe they were just staying overnight waiting for the boat or the carriage. But
It wouldn't be chaos, but it would be constant.
Yes, but it would be constant. Exactly.
Yeah.
You would be moving around that home. The staff would be moving around in between on that property in general, probably from literally, dawn until maybe 10 o'clock at night.
Oh,
And
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
But it's a really beautiful, fascinating place. And if you're perceptive, I think you would appreciate it, just for, the things that you can hear. And I was really happy to hear that I wasn't going crazier than I already am. With other people had done investigations there, and then, I'd spoken to them after the fact, and they had validated a lot of the same things that I had heard. Now,
I love that.
In a sort of brief moment where there was nobody in the house but me, and Ed I think he was out at the car or something, I sat down in one of the parlors and I just asked, for Cassandra. And I used my little EVP app on my phone, which isn't great, but it's not terrible, actually. It's fairly accurate. And I asked if Cassandra was present, and it acted a bit, it's a bit like a K2 meter as well. So it'll pick up. And when I asked about Cassandra, I said, Cassandra, is there someone here named Cassandra? And it's sort of like a REM pod. It went off right away. It blew up. Everything went red. There was red bars, and then it just died back. So, was that a confirmation of Cassandra? Perhaps. Or maybe it was the lady again who was just heard the name Cassandra And she was, but I feel like, that what I heard was residual, but clearly there is a woman present there because other people have picked up on her specifically during investigations. I didn't pick up on her specifically, but I think after that first, noisy 2-hour period, I was sort of like, I don't know that I want to interact with this woman. She just seems so bossy. And, I called her Mrs. Bossy Boots because she was so pushy.
Yeah.
But a really, really great place, and really enjoyed it. The hospitality was wonderful. And if you're ever, moving through sort of that part of Louisiana headed off to Lafayette or to New Iberia or even Franklin, which is a fantastic little town that totally embraces its paranormal. I'm really happy to see you guys' faces again because it's been way too long.
Yes.
It's been a long time. Yeah.
Oh, you
Glad
too.
to be back.
I've missed this.
Glad to be here.
And, next week we will do another show and we will get that up. And I just want to thank everybody for, checking out our YouTube channel. And we will have all of that information available when we post to Facebook, Instagram.
And our Facebook page.
Yeah, all of those.
Yes, check that out.
And folks can join us, and hopefully, we'll get back in the swing of things. And but I've got upcoming TV shows, and if anybody's interested right now, Mysteries of the Ancient Dead season 1 is out, and I think in Canada it's on Superstation, and I believe it's on Prime Video, and I think it's coming out in the US on Apple TV and numerous other ones. And I can't remember. I did another show.
Exciting.
And it's out as well. I think it actually came out last fall. I will kind of put all that into our On the Go show so people can check it out. But they're cool shows because Secrets of the Ancient Dead, or Mysteries of the Ancient Dead, I should say, this first season is based on curses. So we're talking about all kinds of really neat curses that are out there. So we
should do a show on that. That needs to be a show as well.
Oh, we can.
All
right, friends. I'm going to say thank you again, and I will see you next week, and we will continue on the Go Show. Spooky.
Thanks for watching, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
See you next week.
Thank you for watching The Ghost Show Online. Join your hosts again next week as they discuss more tales of the supernatural, the paranormal, and all things spectacular. See you soon.